So pharmaceutical industry is going to play a very big role in supply chain management and supply chain. What is supply chain management? I'll tell you some slides. My organization of presentation is so initially introducing what is supply chain and then pharmaceutical industry, then pharma supply chain, then what are the components in pharma supply chain and how different players, partners, and stakeholders in pharmaceutical supply chain. Then moving on to what are the issues that are going to happen in pharmaceutical industry, and then moving on to, of course, we will be referring the pandemic situation also. Then what are the disruptions happened in pharmaceutical supply chain during COVID, and how things are developed in the post-COVID environment, and also we'll be seeing what are the different strategies taken up by the pharmaceutical industry to cope up with this kind of situation. And then it is really interesting from supply chain point of view. Of course, I know some people from pharma industry also. I consulted people from pharma industry, how did they come out this kind of situation. And then after finally, what is the evolutionary concepts? What are the new things that are coming up? Or you can say how this pharmaceutical supply chain is transforming into future and future pharmaceutical supply chain issues, and also how this model is going to develop, and then finally we'll be having question and answers. So maybe this lecture is for 45 minutes and 15 minutes question and answers. Fine? Is it fine?
Yes, sir, it is fine.
Okay, fine. So this is the agenda. I already told you the introduction and what are the challenges in pharmaceutical supply chain, and how do you look at the traditional supply chain model, and what are the innovations happening, and what are the future trends. Then also I'm looking at from technology perspective. So the technology, we are living in a digital environment, how these digital technologies are enabling supply chain management in pharmaceutical industry, and also some of the IoT applications. And I'll be showing you some videos also if time permits. And so I'll be showing some videos. So based on the videos, you can see how these things are going to happen. And with this now, we'll go on to this machine learning and how temperature control logistics happening, and regulatory compliance, and some case studies also available, and what is the future outlook and conclusion. This is the organization of my presentation today. And if you see the introduction, of course, introduction slides also, this is also available. If you see here, actually see even videos also there, but this is for I'll be sharing you the PPT so that you can see afterwards the relevant videos. So if you see, the pharmaceutical industry is one of the important playing a key role in healthcare industry in terms of researching. A lot of research is happening, and also production and scheduling, distribution, and medications. So it is going to have a wide range of activities, from drug discovery and clinical trials to manufacturing and marketing and so on and so forth. But this industry, of course, is going to be having some regulatory requirements, stringent regulatory requirements, and that is going to be there continuously, and then also research and development, and ensuring safety and efficacy of pharmaceutical products. This is also very important. So when you are talking about safety and efficacy, and when you are dealing with the healthcare patients and other consumers, so safety is very important, and safety to products also important. So now, if you see how the advancement is happening, we'll see. So what is pharmaceutical supply chain? Normally, supply chain is, when you talk about supply and demand in basic things. So how do you balance supply and demand in normal sense? So there is a demand. There is demand from the consumers, the market. But how do you supply? What you are going to supply? How you are going to supply? And that is what supply chain. So simply to understand in a common layman perspective. So the supply chain is how you are going to supply your products and services to the consumers through production system and wholesalers, retailers. So in the supply chain, the conventional supply chain, if you see, sellers are supplying raw materials and manufacturing unit or production unit. Then from production, it is going to be finished goods. Then finished goods are going to be distributed to customers through different channels. That is wholesalers, distributors, and selling agents. Finally, customers. So this is what. So the supply chain. So the demand comes from customer and supply. So you have a different kinds of flows: material flow, information flow, and then financial flow. So these flows are going to be there in various stages in the supply chain ultimately towards customer satisfaction. So whatever customer wants, you have to supply with all these stages. So the material flow is from upstream and downstream is towards the distribution. So the raw material flow is upstream and downstream is finished goods. From finished goods to customer, that is downstream. So how we are going to link upstream and downstream activities in the production activity, pharmaceutical production activity. So that's how the supply chain, simple supply chain. The suppliers are involved, the manufacturers, our manufacturing facility, distributors and wholesalers and agents, and finally the to reaching to customers. So how you are ensuring a smooth flow of material, smooth flow of information, and smooth flow of financial flow. All these flows are part of supply chain. So earlier supply chains were there, but using information technology, how you are going to ensure these flows and integrate all the processes and tightly integrate and see that there will not be any disruption in the entire flow of chain of activities. That's how. Coming to pharmaceutical supply chain, so it is same concept, production, including medications, vaccines, and devices. So any supply chain starts with the raw material and manufacturing, then products, and delivery to the providers, the healthcare providers, by the healthcare providers to patients, you can say. So supply chain is going to have, that's why supply chain is multiple networks. Suppliers have a supplier network, manufacturing units, one unit or multiple units, and distribution network. Like that, all networks, it is integration of networks. Supply chain is supply chains of many products. It's not that only we are talking about pharmaceutical supply chain, but there are many other supply chains are integrated in pharmaceutical supply chain to see that how best we can serve the customers. That's the essence of the supply chain. Each party, each stakeholder is going to play a very crucial role in this supply chain to ensure right product, right medication, right patient, right time, right cost, all ours. So that's why the pharmaceutical supply chain, whenever the supply chain concept is coming into picture, so whenever this critical or complex situation you are facing. Otherwise, if it is a single unit manufacturing, a few customers are there and a few suppliers are there, there is no supply chain. It's a supply chain is very clear. But when it is complex with different networks, different stakeholders, different multiple locations, so then it is very complex. Then supply chain concept is going to come into picture, and then you see the requirements for the customer, the supply chain, and also, of course, in the pharmaceutical supply chain, you have to see the regulations part and guidelines also for all the medications are handled and transported very safely and effectively. This is a simple understanding about this pharma supply chain. So this is how you can say in a diagrammatically, if you see the raw materials and finished product, this is manufacturing. This is a manufacturing facility. So finished products, different units will be there. and different raw material suppliers will be there. Again, suppliers. There tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier, tier 3 suppliers like that. So here again, distribution network through third party logistics, distributors, and finally it reaches into hospital, clinics, and pharmacies, and ultimately it reaches into patients. So here the raw material sourcing, then manufacturing, then distribution and dispensing, logistics, and finally dispensing. So these are the different stages involved in pharmaceutical supply chain, and you can see different flows. These are the different network. These are all combination of different networks, or integration of different networks, and different flows. So many to many, or one to many, like that. So other diagram, if you see here from the literature, if you see raw material suppliers, and raw materials are supplied, and finished goods manufactured, then packaging, then distribution, then distributor, then clinics and pharmacies and patients. This is another way of linear flow of supply chain that you can see. Then how does the supply chain work? Pharmaceutical supply chain work? This is a big question. Here, these are the 5 important steps for the beginners. You can easily understand. The drugs are manufactured at production sites, and they are transferred to wholesalers, distributors, the finished product, and then pharmaceuticals, they are stocked at various locations, and then various pharmacies and retail, and some even mail order also. Then pharmacy benefit management companies, PBM. PBM companies negotiate prices and the process drugs through quality and utilization and checks. And ultimately, you will be having dispensing the drugs to patients. This is how the entire, if you describe in stepwise. Then importance of efficient supply chain. This is also very important. Now people are talking about efficiency and effectiveness. Efficient supply chain and effective supply chain. So efficiency is towards cost minimization, and effectiveness is towards customer responsiveness. How effective you are means how within no time or within minimum period of time, how are you going to deliver product to the customer. So there is a video is also there. I'll be showing it at the end. So efficient supply chain is very, very critical. It's not a simple supply chain and connecting people. The efficiency is also very important, and that is due to different complexity of the supply chain. So here very important thing is the pharmaceutical products should adhere to the quality and safety and regulatory standards. And delays, errors, these things you have to minimize it. Delays, errors, disruptions in the supply chain. Sometimes suppliers are unable to supply within time, so your production is delayed, and customers' orders are going to be delayed. Everything is a chain of activity, so it is a cycle. So then, whenever a delay and disruptions or disturbances in the supply chain flow happens, that leads to very serious consequences. Of course, finally affecting your patient health and safety. So that's why. So at the same time, industry is also facing counterfeiting of drugs and stringent temperature control requirements and regulatory compliance. All these things are, if you are going to ensure, that's what efficient supply chain, which is ensuring timely and reliable delivery of life-saving medications. This is what efficient supply chain. But now the supply chain, the pharmaceutical industry is post-COVID environment. If you see in the COVID environment, so a lot of disruptions happened. Supply shocks, demand. There is a demand, but there is no supply because of the transportation problems. Or everything is standstill, and nobody is no activity, no supply. So mostly from the Indian perspective, you have 70% of the pharmaceutical products are through API, active ingredient, pharmaceutical ingredient. So 70% of the raw materials or components are coming from China. So it is disrupted. There is a disruption in the flow of raw material. The production is stopped. Our production is so. Fortunately, Indian pharmaceutical industries they didn't forecast this, but they have a sufficient inventory. They have sufficient inventory because of which they are able to survive for some time. So, so these disruptions happen. So that's where how supply chain, farm supply chain transformed into a new supply chain with using technologies and different innovative practices. That is really revolutionary the pharmaceutical industry. So, what are the challenges the industry has faced? Because supply is not there, no inventory, and then they have to depend on the suppliers from outside the country, and how the global supply chain is disruption happened. So now over a period of time, what happens? The technology has come into picture, and the blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and the cold logistics, all the things have come into picture, and then the optimization happened. Supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chain, optimization happened. That optimization leads to efficiency and transparency and compliance. This is how things happen. Now, the challenges, of course, I already told you the regulatory compliance and then meeting the stringent regulations from health authorities. And then, of course, FDA and we have an Indian regulatory authorities. Then temperature control is also one important aspect. Then serialization is also one important. So the barcoding and serial numbers, how you generate. So serialization is also one of the important things to identify the individual units and tracing the products in supply chain, and then global supply chain composite. Anyhow, the suppliers from global companies, so how they are facing the issue during COVID and even post-COVID situation also. Some of the issues happened. Multiple stakeholders from different suppliers, distributors, all these things really made a lot of complexity in the supply chain. So if you go back to traditional supply chain, as I showed you the diagram, the manufacturing, packaging, and labeling, warehousing, and distribution. These are traditional supply chains are almost linear supply chains. Few suppliers, few manufacturers, or one single manufacturer and multiple uh, customer locations. So then retail and consumption. These are the different steps. Now, if you see a more diagram from the literature, if you see raw material supplier, generics API manufacturer, and contract manufacturers. So these are all supply part, or you can say inbound logistics. And manufacturer, supply, manufacturing the drug, then packaging and direct to provider. So the people, different people will have different kinds of consortiums, and they play against, and they are not cooperating each other. So when sharing of information, sharing is not there, caring is not possible. That's why. So this fragmentation is also leading some kind of issue in the pharmaceutical supply chain. So that's why the challenges that you can see unprepared. There are you are not prepared for disruptions. That is big challenge. COVID has given a lot of lessons, but similar type of situation come. What do we do? That we will discuss. Then technological bottlenecks are there. So then you can say material availability also one of the challenges, and SOPs also, of course, the regulatory uh, authorities, they look at the stringent SOPs also. Then cold chain shortage, because of this COVID environment, you have to maintain the temperature for different drugs. So the infrastructure facility is also one of the important aspects, and safety guidelines is also very important across the borders, and drug delivery, rapid drug delivery, and integration part. These are the, of course, these are the issues that we have explained in a different way. So if you see during the pandemic, we have seen these are the major issues that happened in pandemic situation during COVID-19. So production delays happened and distribution delays happened, and also expensive inventories because the supply is limited. So the price increases, and the inventory is going to be very expensive. and finally the customer has to pay more money. So that happened, that exploitation happened during COVID. And then even partners coordination also very poor, and uncertainties in deliveries and poor demand forecast is one of the important aspects. Demand forecasting is not done. So you are not looking into future, and then what is how inventory you have to keep. So suppose 50 days inventory or 30 days inventory or 20 days inventory. And so interference with the production also a major problem that has happened, and poor quality. Several different problems happened during the pandemic situation. So here, this is subsequently coordination issues and inventory management and demand information, and there is a reliance on human resources. Order management is also one of the challenge. Avoiding drug shortage, drug expiration, warehouse management, temperature control, shipment visibility. All these things are the current supply chain challenges. So the bottlenecks, if you see, potential bottlenecks, if you see, so regulatory compliance checks. Each stage requires compliance checks, leading to potential delays happening. So this is a delay is happening because of regulatory checks, and that is very important. And also other bottleneck is transportation bottleneck. So proper transportation is also very important. And if the delay in the transportation happens, your production scheduling and then distribution of the product. Then other challenges, other bottleneck is here the bottleneck is actually it is preventing you from doing better job, preventing you from generating profit. So that's why it is directly impacting the bottom line of organization. So inventory management. So the optimal stock levels. What is the optimal stock level for different kinds of products? These are all serious bottlenecks. And other communication gaps, of course, there is no coordination between stakeholders, so misalignments, and that leads to inefficiency and temperature control challenges. So now, what are the trends? Based on this, what are the trends in pharmaceutical supply chain is increased emphasis on digitization. So during pandemic, of course, some companies they have adopted, but so that has been necessitated to go for digitization. So digital technologies, that is one, because sharing and caring of information will be there. So when you are sharing information, there is a partnership, and there is a free exchange of views, and you will be the transparency of operations will be there, and efficiency can be improved. And data visibility, and also data-driven decision making happens. And traceability, of course, is also one of the important. So when the demand is increasing, so how do you look at end-to-end traceability? From where the shipment of product, how do you track and trace? And how do you combat counterfeiting and improve transparency? This is also one of the important aspects. And patient-centric supply chains. So now the focus has been moved on to product-centric and service-centric to the patient-centric supply chain, because it's a personalized medicine. Now the entire industry is looking at a personalized medicine, and how supply chains are going to align to this kind of changes. And collaborative supply chain networks. As I told you, supply chain of pharmaceutical industry is going to connect internal supply chains and external supply chains. So how do you collaborate? How do you collaborate the networks so that efficiency can be improved? Then if you see the technologies part, as I told you in the beginning, so innovative technologies in pharmaceutical supply chain, so blockchain technology. So this is again, it is a decentralized, secure and transparent ledgers, ensuring tamper-proof traceability of pharmaceutical products. This is very important, and most of the companies are going for implementation of blockchain technology. And IoT, of course, many of the companies have already implemented this integration of IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, for real-time monitoring of inventory, transportation conditions, and product integrity. Then, of course, AI and ML is artificial intelligence machine learning. This into when the data is available, how you are going to look at the production scheduling, production quantity, volumes, and delivery schedules, and what is the demand, all the information that is data is generated across different stages of the supply chain, and how do you manage this data, and how do you predict? That's what predictive analytics for demand forecasting. What is going to happen? So looking at the current situation, how do you predict correctly so that you can take decisions. And also it is leading to risk management strategies. Of course, the pharma industry is now focusing more on risk management because a lot of disruptions happen. So there are risk management strategies are there, and then optimization of supply chain process. And how do you reduce the cycle time? How do you minimize the waste? And how do you improve the efficiency of the process? All these things are going to happen through AI and ML. And smart packaging solution is also happening. Smart packaging solutions because IoT device and sensors. They monitor the temperature of the packing and the humidity and other environmental factors. Because when you are talking about green supply chains, so green, what is green supply chain and which is leading to sustainable supply chain development? How do you look at the climatic conditions and how do you minimize the waste and how do you recycle the product? All these things are reused and recycle and refuse. All kinds of arts are there, which showing. So this is very important. That's why smart supply chains are happening now with using technologies and other technologies, robotic process automation. This is happening. So the routine tasks, how do you automate it in the warehousing? How do you trace the material and automatically repeated tasks are to be done by these robots and you can identification traceability errors can minimize and improve the supply chain operations. Of course, there are two videos are there in blockchain. I think you can go through little later after I share the presentation. So here the blockchain technology is very, you know that how it is going to create a transparency in the operations. In pharmaceutical industry, you have a lot of contracts and a lot of billing happens and how do you have a safe contracts and security, all these things going to happen through decentralized ledgers and immutable records and smart contracts. So these are the three important elements which are really helping pharmaceutical supply chain to make it more transparent and more this thing. Real-time visibility. Real-time visibility will be there. Real-time visibility of data, real-time visibility of operations, and real-time visibility of the tracking of the product. All these things are going to happen. So these transparencies are now also extended to regulatory authorities, so that there is a compliance. Are you really meeting any deviations are happening that you can easily identify? Then you can see the security is also increasing because the use of cryptography that is going to look at the protection of data and you can also trade secrets in the pharmaceutical industry. And all these things are really enabling the supply chain efficiency. The Internet of Things, if you look at there's so a lot of research that has happened on Internet of Things in pharma, only Internet of Things. So here, if you see at the manufacturing phase, warehousing and transportation, three levels if you see. So IoT sensors on production equipment monitoring manufacturing process, any process delay is happening, and where exactly the process delay is happening, where exactly the component is not working. All these things, real-time monitoring is going to happen, and that looks at quality control. So the pharmaceutical industry looks at quality is very important, and if you improve the efficiency, definitely looking at quality, that is very important. And warehousing is how IoT enables smart shelves, smart tracking inventory levels. Automatically, the shelves, how much inventory, how much is this issue, and how much is there, the remaining inventory that you can easily track through IoT devices. And leading to automated inventory management. They minimize the stock outs and overstock situation. Understock and overstock, these situations is the inventory management. So real-time and real-time monitoring and real-time information that is available, then you can easily find out. You can take a decision immediately for auto management. Then transportation is, of course, IoT device as a shipment. When the shipment is in transit, then how do you look at? So how much temperature it is going to be there? Any disruption, any reduction in temperature, all these things can be monitored online, real-time situation. Sitting at somewhere at the customer end, our customer also can also track what is the shipment, where is the shipment, and real-time tracking and temperature control is also ensuring product integrity during the transit. Then coming to distribution center. Distribution center also you have IoT-enabled conveyor belts for automated sorting and processing. Then you have a logistics faster and more accurate distribution. So where exactly that is what the logistics you can track and trace the shipments. And when you look at the retail pharmacy, the pharmacy supply chain, so RFID tags are implementation. Earlier barcodes were there. Now RFID tags are going to give you more transparency and automatic inventory can be done. Efficient, secure point of sale transactions are going to happen, and visibility in inventory is going to happen to our retail firms. Then, what are the benefits? If you see here, real-time monitoring, so you can continuous monitoring of production, storage, transportation conditions for immediate issue identification. That means you will be identifying a problem. Problem identification itself a big problem. That's why if you don't identify a problem at the early stage, that will create a lot of disruption in the supply chain and the quality of product. And of course, predictive analytics. Predictive analytics also, when will the equipment is going to, so looking at the equipment conditions, so when will the equipment is fail? When will the equipment fails? When will the equipment fail? All these things can be done. So IoT device is going to enable predictive analytics and anticipating potential disruptions and optimizing supply chain process. So the equipment is suppose a particular the failure of, if you are able to predict a failure of equipment, so you can have a better maintenance management. So like that, predictive analytics is in the terms of you can also predict the performance, production efficiency, and also you can predict the productivity of the people, and then you can also distribution channel, and also how effectively distribution channel is going to happen. So with the same setup, same resources, how long it will survive, all these things can be, when it is going to fail also, that you can identify using predictive analytics. Then inventory management, automated tracking management of inventory levels, and that is going to reduce your stock hours and enhance the quality control, then efficiency is going to be improved. Then if you see A and ML, only if you see, that is the supply chain optimization. A and ML are very advanced technologies. Of course, you have different tools available, and to see that how from the data, how do we make perfect predictions and optimize process without explicit programming. So you have different AI tools are available, and these tools are applied across the supply chain, how decision making is going to be more efficient and to improve the efficiency. Then predictive analytics, as I told you, it is statistical algorithms. So the data is subjected to statistical algorithms and machine learning techniques. How historical data is going to predict future outcomes. And then here, of course, any disruption that is going to happen will be identified within no time, and you can also take a immediate action. So in the supply chain forecasting, so forecasting, the predictive analytics forecasting, how would be the sales and how would be the demand fluctuations happens. And if you can also do a lot of sensitivity analysis. If the sensitivity analysis, if this kind of disruption happens, how do we prepare for that? How do we prepare for the disruptions? All these things, what scenarios can be built up with all the issues and other things. That's why predictive analytics is very important, and people are now relying on this predictive analytics. Of course, this is another way of looking at OEM supply chain, OEM original equipment manufacturer supply chain, and then demand forecasting. Of course, I told you, improved accuracy in predictions and stock hours and enhanced inventory management. Then if you see here, if you see some examples, I have got it, and then algorithms analyze historical sales data, seasonality index. So do what is the season-wise analysis will be there, and market trends, and also you can predict future demands using these algorithms. And dynamic pricing also. AI-driven dynamic pricing models are there, which are real-time demand and competitor pricing, and also market conditions. Then inventory optimization. So the regulations, of course, impact of regulation in the pharmacy supply chain is stringent quality standards, globalization challenges. Then you have a serializations, temperature, all these things we already discussed. This is again repetition. And technology is also how technology is really important in regulatory compliance. Of course, blockchain and data analytics, predictive analytics, and also electronic document management system, and all these things are available. So traceability is going to be increased, and integrity and efficiency in the reporting and proactive issue resolution, all these things are there. So some case studies, if you see, Johnson & Johnson blockchain for traceability. So this traceability, so their challenge was end-to-end traceability, combating forfeit drugs and global supply chain. They implemented the global supply chain blockchain technology to trace the journey of pharmaceutical products from manufacture to distribution areas. So they have achieved. This is a small case. So with all numerical values, everything you can find out from the case study, big case study. So the summary is finally they're able to reduce this issue, and compliance, regulatory compliance has been increased. Then other case study, Pfizer companies, IoT real time they implemented, and so they have seen the temperature sensitive medications during transportation, and after implementation, so their issue is this one, and then finally they implement the IoT enabled sensors, and the result is reduced instance of temperature excursions. So that means product quality is improved and reduced wastage will be there, enhancing to supply chain efficiency. Then third one, Novartis is a top pharmaceutical company. So they have AI for demand forecasting, and their challenge is inventory levels. How do you optimize inventory levels using this improving the demand forecasting? So the solution is they have adopted this AI algorithm. Then result is significant reduction in stockouts and excess inventory. So the inventory reduction is going to save a lot of money. So these case studies are, if you I've taken one, there are so many other case studies available, but these top case studies we see blockchain on IoT and also AI and machine learning. So here the lessons that we have learned, and we also recommend for the companies to go for a scalable technologies and align with the specific needs. So technology is going to bring, of course, investment, the economics, all these things have to be worked out, and finally the benefit is huge from long-term point of view. So now the predictions for the future that you can see is integration, AI, ML is compulsory, and adoption of robotics, and then 5G and IoT connectivity. Enhanced visibility, further enhanced visibility, the 5G and IoT connectivity. And then blockchain, and one more, the technology, edge computing, real-time processing. So edge computing is going to give you real-time processing, and then that is going to reducing latency and improving overall system responsiveness. Then biopharmaceutical supply chains is also one of the important things that is coming up, and is a personalized medicine, focusing on personalized medicine and stringent temperature control for biological products. So as I told you, the traditional supply chain models we have seen, but those are transforming into supply chain 4.4. So making that medical product traceability, security, and maintaining through the supply chain. So that's why this Pharma 4.0 is coming up. Pharma 4.0 in the production, how we are going to integrate your technologies like cloud computing, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. So how do you push the value chain in the direction of hyper transparency and data sharing and predictive analytics? So if you see the Pharma 4.0, so the industry 4.0, so all these things, digital supply chains, digital pharma supply chain 4.0, and evolved from industry 4.4. So first revolution, second revolution, third revolution, and fourth revolution, with different periods of time. So first revolution, mechanization and mass production, then computer automation, then cyber physical systems. Now this is what digitization is happening. So the Pharma 4.0 is manufacturing process which is more robust and flexible. Fewer interruptions in the medical production and delivery, and better connectivity and faster responses to drug shortage and increased productivity. So what are the innovations on the origin is autonomous vehicles for last mile deliveries. Implementation of autonomous vehicles, drones for secure and efficient last mile delivery. So because we have a omni-channel and so that omni-channel network, we have a last mile delivery is going to be ensured for the delivery of pharmaceuticals and minimizing the delivery times. And 3D printing is also now fast growing technology, and it is going to look at the demand side of the pharmaceutical manufacturing and reduce the lead times because the components are available and need not depend on the remote location, and waste minimization is going to be minimized, and personalized medical production that is going to happen. And of course, resilience, supply chain resilience. This is one concept that is coming up, supply chain resilience, because of the disruptions in the supply chain during COVID time. So how are you going to cope up with different robust pharma supply chains? That is what resilience, shocks. How are you going to incorporate, absorb these things, and how do you prepare yourself? So resilient supply chain, leveraging technologies and mitigate disruptions caused by geopolitical events, natural disaster, and also health crisis. So, what are the suggestions that can improve supply chain? Is the suggestions development of annual forecasts is very important. Annual forecast. So forecasting is very topmost priority in supply chains, pharmaceutical supply chains. The forecasting method or forecasting is not proper, it is going to lead so many disruptions. And regular monitoring and review of supply chain. This is also one of the important. So of course, you have using technology, transparency and monitoring is going to happen. And bulk and pooled procurement. This is also economies of scale. So of course, this is not a new concept, but economies of scale always very important in terms of one of the important aspects is bulk and pooled procurement. So supplier consortiums are going to happen, then you can have a bulk and pooled procurement and pre-qualification of suppliers to reduce supply chain lead time. So this is also very important. And contracts, proper contracts have to be formalized, and they have to minimize supply chain interruptions. And shortening of supply pipeline to minimize the quality and price variability. These are the different suggestions for the supply chain. And also you can see 5 C's of effective supply chain. 5 C's of effective is connectedness. And so how do you, so this is given by Alpha, some academic consultancy company. And then collaborators, another one is collaborativeness. Then cyber aware using technology integration. Then cognitively enabled, more knowledge sharing is there and comprehensive. These 5 C are going to be leading to effective supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chain. So of course, some key drivers in 21st century supply chain, if you see, from suppliers to consumers, so increasing importance of integration and collaboration with suppliers. That means suppliers collaboration is very important. And then changes in the sourcing of factories and manufacturing footprints from manufacturing point of view and warehousing point of view, quick response and time critical flexible distribution, new channels. Then prescribing and retail large or national global players with increased buying power. Then other one is more demanding consumers with greater health awareness. So the consumer is
So how do you handle and mitigate the impact
well aware of
of
things.
unexpected
So
events
all these
or
things are
disruptions from the pharmaceutical
planning
supply
of
chain?
your supply chain and using information technology. So the increased need supply chain process standardization, responsiveness, IT integration. These are all the key drivers for the 21st supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chain. I told you other things. So now linear economy to circular economy. We are moving away to circular economy where we are increasing circularity. So what are the strategies for circular supply chain? So there is sustainable pharmaceutical supply chain, green supply chain, green pharma supply chain. So towards circular economy. So refuse, rethink, reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, repurpose, recycle, recall. All these are 9 R's are strategies for developing a circular supply chain, which is a sustainable supply chain with focus on these. So the raw material suppliers and biotech R&D and other educational institutions. Then other part is manufacturing segment. Manufacturing phase, this is logistics service providers, contract research and packaging and contract manufacturers, active pharma ingredient, all these things. The third segment is outbound. Outbound phase of supply chain is again distribution, warehouse distribution, country warehouse, and all this. And through different distribution you have, and to the end consumer, the tailor, and again you have recycling. So all this recycling and disposal will be again reverse flow. This is called reverse logistics. Return flow. So these things will be again recycled to the manufacturing unit, and then again, so there is no wastage at all. So now, as I told you, the digitization of pharma industry is how emerging technologies are really integrating this pharma industry to become a digital supply chain. So it is going to enable a decision support system and real world evidence and e-procurement. Of course, e-procurement is also old concept, but now using better technologies. So how it is going to support your operations, drug discovery, clinical trials, manufacturing, and other commercials. So genomes and protein, big data is there, big data analytics, and then precision medicine and comparison diagnostics and virtual trial tariffs. Then connected devices, robotics, and digital packets. So these are digital supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chain. So what are the key considerations for the future is adaptive regulatory framework. This is very important. So this is going to accommodate new technologies and how to develop a further compliance to the regulatory tips. Then cyber security in current world. Cyber security is again how you are going to look at robust cyber security. That means security of data and security of the facility and assets, and how do you protect from cyber threats, all these things. Then collaboration across ecosystem. So if you implement these technologies, definitely it is going to have a better collaboration among companies and technology providers and regulators and other stakeholders. So if you look at finally how technology is embracing in pharmaceutical industry or embracing innovation, how technology is innovation is going to be there. So current challenges, regulatory compliance, we have seen innovative solutions that we have seen, real world success case studies also we have seen, and future outlook also we have seen. But here, so encouragement to embrace innovation is the encouragement to embrace change and competitive edge and collaboration for success. These three important elements that are the encouragement will be there. And this is about supply chain overview of the pharmaceutical industry. And thank you for that. So, how AI is going to be really helpful? You might have seen different applications, different situations, and how early detection is going to really prevent so many problems, issues, isn't it? So I think now with this I'll conclude this, and the supply chain management in pharmaceutical industry is vast, and many supply chains. If you really take it, you can conduct a big workshop and see segment wise and how they are interconnected, and how do we design a optimum supply chain model so that you can minimize the cost and increase the profit, and then how resources are going to be utilized very optimally towards how the supply chain design can be done, customer centric supply chain. All these things are very important, and of course, technology is going to be major differentiator. Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. Now, I would like to encourage the participant to comment their queries in the chat box. You can open the mic for the discussion. Okay, I have seen one question in the Q&A part. So the question goes, how do you handle and mitigate the impact of unexpected events or disruptions on the pharmaceutical supply chain?
How do you mitigate the impact of unexpected events?
Yeah.
So the unexpected events, in the sense, supply disruptions. It can be supply disruption or inventory issues or sometimes delay in the shipments, or maybe quality quality deviations. So there are many interruptions are there. But these interruptions actually, one answer is of course one of the questions are how do you integrate technology? That part we have already discussed. And also in the raw material side, if inventory shortages are going to happen. So these inventory shortages mostly you can have a better strategy for sourcing strategy. So you have a tier one, tier two suppliers. So how do you connect these tier one, tier two suppliers, integrate them, and then continuously share information with them? And that's also one important aspect. And also when you are distribution side, when you are going to have it, how do you look at alternate distribution channels? Of course, you'll be using the technology, but how do you look at what are the different alternate distribution channels? That is also one important thing. So it's not that you completely depend on one supplier, completely depend on one distribution channel. You have to optimize it. Then also on inventory, actually, if you look at inventory, your stock levels, how do you maintain this safety stocks? Safety stock criteria, how to look at so that you can reduce the stock outs. So how do you evaluate the safety? How do you look at economic order quantity and the safety stocks level? How do you fix up the safety stock level? And of course, information sharing is also one important aspect. And when you're sharing information, you have to also look at the forecast. How best your forecasting technique is. That's also one of the important aspects. So these are the different things that you can use, different ways that you can mitigate this in unexpected events, disruptions. Suppliers are reliable suppliers, and your supply base you have to redesign it. Yes. Anything?
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So, I personally also have a query. So,
Yeah.
can you discuss any specific challenges related to the international regulations or cross-border logistics?
Cross-border logistics. Okay. Cross-border logistics actually. How are you going to monitor tracking and tracing of your products? Tracking and tracking of products. Mostly, how do you using technology? That is one aspect, and cross-border relationship is also important. So when you are looking at regulations compliance. So if you maintain good relationship with the people, coordination and cooperation, then automatically this cross-border problems will be minimized. But still, it is there because of geopolitical situations and other situations. These problems will be there. So only through negotiation, proper negotiation strategy, and then how do we have a integration between the systems? That is also important. Is it fine?
So, Professor Acharya, so can I add
Yeah.
some?
Yeah, you can add.
Even I am facing some of the issues on cross-border, but provided that Nepal have a very close relationship with China and India, Nepal we don't have much issue because most of the logistics, whatever we arrange from maybe like Korea or Japan or maybe other third world, it's very easy to get in Nepal because if it is coming for Nepal, the whole container, there won't be much challenge on the border. Maybe be it be like a China or India, and the regulatory part is totally dependent on the country where we are importing. So let's say I'm importing in Nepal, then all the regulatory compliance has to meet the regulatory requirement of Nepal. So only on some of the like maybe some hazardous or toxicological elements or maybe those things which are related to terrorism, then either China or India or some other countries may interfere, or else I don't think there is much problem with the cross-border because there are lots of logistic companies they are working, and Professor said, if we have some issues with geopolitics, then definitely we are going to suffer, or else there isn't much problem.
Yeah. See, even supplier networks also we have to build a strong supplier network so that sourcing will not be any problem. And of course, there are some threats are there, but we have to have a negotiations, strategic negotiations, like terrorism and other things. We can't avoid such a kind of disruptions, but that issue is totally different.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for answering the query, and Kevin, sir, for adding on to it. So I think we don't have any more questions in the chat box. So without any further delay, I would like to directly move forward towards the session. So we are so as we are concluding this insightful webinar, I, on behalf of the organization, would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to Professor GVRK Acharyulu for sharing his expertise and invaluable insights with us today. So your contribution definitely have enriched our understanding of supply chain management in the pharmaceutical industry. So as a part of our appreciation, we would like to present you the virtual token of love. So
Yeah,
just let
thank
me
you.
just